All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking over full stack development. This is kind of a review, so I don't really have a structure for how this is going to break down. We kind of just get start coding. And then again, oh wow, I cannot spell full stack apparently. But oh well. If at any point you have a question over something I'm doing, or you just have a question over something you would like to see demonstrated, please just let me know, and then I'll be more than happy to break it down. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. The first thing that I need to do is create a Python virtual environment. I'm actually going to start off with my backend. So Python venv-m.venv. What's going on here? Where are you? There you go. All right, just need to remember the command. So there's my virtual environment that has been created. I am now going to activate my virtual environment. And now that my virtual environment has been activated, I can go ahead and install all of my requirements. So I know I'm going to need Django to start off with. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade my pip. Okay, I know I'm going to need PG binary for PG3. Okay, I know I'm going to need Django REST frameworks. And I think that's all I'm going to need for now. But just in case, I'm also going to install the python-.env. Okay, next I'm going to create a .git ignore. And I know that within my .git ignore, I need to ignore my .venv and .env if I ever create one. And I know that there's a bunch of PyCache files that are going to be created that I won't need to keep track of. Okay. So that gets pretty much everything that I need to get Django started. So let's go ahead and start our project. So let's go ahead and start by making a full stack project. Now let's go ahead and do that. Let's go with me here, full stack. Okay, currently that directory is empty. And I'm going to go ahead and say Django admin, start project. And I'm going to name this project backend project. Okay, now I have my backend project. I'm going to go ahead and create my V project as well. So I'm going to say npm create Vite. I'm going to name this front end. It's going to be React, JavaScript, and I don't need to necessarily worry about setting it up just yet. But I'm probably going to forget to run npm install later. So I'm actually going to do that now by running npm install. Oh, it's trying. Okay, there you go. Okay, now I can go ahead and go back into my backend project. Here I can see that I just have my backend project and my managed PY. Or I can go ahead and start off by making an app for users. Okay. Finally, I know I'm going to need a database. So I'm just going to create DB. And maybe I just name this. I'm not sure what to name it. I'm just going to name it user DB. Okay, great. So that gets all of, oh, I also need to install course headers, don't I? Yes, I do. Let's see, where does that come from? There you are. Here it is, pip install Django course headers. Almost forgot about that one. Okay, so I have my user app. Let me go ahead and pip freeze. The requirements txt real quick. Okay, so now I have my backend project. I have my front end project. My front end and my backend are running independently, so I will need cores. So now I can start setting up my user app and my settings. Well, let's start off with the settings. That should be something that we're pretty familiar with. Well, in settings, the first thing that I want to change is I want to add REST framework. I want to add course headers. And I want to add my user app. And I believe it's REST underscore framework. And I'm also going to need REST underscore framework. Is it .auth token? I believe that's what it is. Let's see. Framework permissions. Okay. There it is. REST framework .auth token. All right. Okay, and then we have course headers, which I believe that's what we had earlier from course. Okay, there's my course headers. Awesome. And then I can never remember the correct command. So here it is. So I need the course middleware right on top of common middleware. All right, that takes care of that. The next thing that I need to change is going to be my database. So I'm not going to be utilizing SQLite. I will be utilizing PostgreSQL. And the database name that I just created was user underscore DB. Okay, so now I need my REST framework stuff. Let's see. I'm going to my authentication one more time. Authorization. I'm looking for the dictionary that will specify what kind of authentication I need. There it is. I don't think that's it, is it? Let's see, maybe I could find it in our curriculum. That's probably going to be easier. And I say maybe, but I know that it's in our curriculum. Okay, there it is. So here we have REST framework, we have our default authentication classes, and we know that we're going to be utilizing token authentication. All right, the final thing that I need to change is I need to tell Django that its authentication model will now be the auth user model. And that's going to be within user app. I'm going to name it user. All right, and that should cover the majority of our Django settings. We could come back later and hide our key, but that's not necessarily something important right now. Does anyone have any questions about this project setup so far?
Hey, Francisco, what lesson in the curriculum is that in?
That's going to be under module of Django on the user authentication lecture, which is 8, and that's going to be on part 1. Here is the link as well.
Okay, I'm seeing it now.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, let's go ahead. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and start creating our user. So now I'm gonna go, my backend project has been set up. It's tracking on my user app, but currently I don't have a user. So now I'm gonna grab this user from, I believe it's Django.contrib. Dot, it has to be authentication models. There it is. Okay. So we're gonna import from Django.contrib.auth.models, and we're going to import the abstract user. And from there, I'm just gonna make a class named user that will inherit from abstract user. This user will have an email. I'm gonna choose to give the user's email a unique requirement because I'm also going to make this the username. So now I can pass in username field, email, and then finally I can say that required fields is equal to all. That's it. That's all I need. I have my class of the user. It's gonna have an email, a username field, and a required fields. I can add something like, I don't know, name or display name if I really wanted to, but I think I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible for this demonstration. Unless anybody would like to see something specific. Does anybody want to see something specific within the user app?
Can we do display name or, yeah,
Yeah, we definitely can. Let's go ahead and add display name. Display name. And let's just do chart field. I guess we could give it a max length if we really wanted to. Let's go ahead and give it a max length of 50, right? I don't think anybody should have it. 50 is even too much. 25 characters. There you go. Okay. And I guess the display name should also be unique. That would make sense. All right. So then we have our user with their email, which is going to be utilized as their username, and then their display name, which is just going to be something that we show instead of showing the user's email. Okay. So now we have all this information. This is great. The user app should be able to run now. Now it comes time to test it. Let's go ahead and run our migrations. So I'm going to make migrations. Okay, so I'm getting a problem here, and that's coming from my installed apps. It looks like I forgot to place a comma. So if I go into my settings and I go to installed apps, I can see that I have REST framework auth token, and I forgot to place a comma to separate two course headers. So now I go to make migrations. It's actually able to make my migration and create my user model. And now I can migrate. All right, and now all of my migrations should be within my database. If I want to check that, I can go ahead and enter my user DB. I can say, I could run /d to be able to see all of the different models that have just been imported from Django to include my user model. All right. Everything has been connected. Now it's time to actually create our API to be able to log in. So let's take care of that. Let's go to our URLs. I'm going to go ahead and import and include. And then finally bring in my path. I'm going to say this is going to be for API/v1/users. And it's going to include all of the URLs within user app dot URLs. All right. So now my user app does not have a URLs file. So I need to create a file named urls.py. And now this file, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say from Django.urls import path from .views import. I know I'm going to create a sign up view. I am going to create a login view, an info, and finally what's the last one that I need? Oh, logout. There we go. A logout view. So now I can make my URL patterns. My URL patterns will have all of these paths. So at an empty path, I'm going to say that that's going to go to info. At sign up, it is going to go to sign up. At login, it will go to login. And at logout, it will go to the logout view. I'm going to concentrate on making the sign up function first. All right. Does anyone have any questions about how I connected the URL so far? Okay, let's go ahead and push forward. We're going to go ahead and make this sign up view now. So what I'm going to need is I'm going to need a couple of import statements from REST framework. So I'm going to import views or API view. I'm going to need the response. I am also going to need the different status, which in this case will be 404. So I need 201 created. Bad request. And 404. Okay, so that takes care of that. What else should I need? I should probably bring in my serializer or my model, since I don't have a serializer now. So from models, import my user. And I believe that's all I need for now. I don't think I need anything else. But if I come across anything else, I'll go ahead and import it. I'll go ahead and create my sign up class, which is going to inherit from API view. Oh, now I remember what I need. So from REST framework dot authentication import is authenticated. Oh no.
Permissions.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Okay. There it is. All right. So now we have permissions, which is authenticated and then token authentication. Awesome. All right. So from API view, I'm going to want to sign up. So this is going to take in only a post request. We want to utilize self and request. And then the first thing that I want to do is create a copy of the data within request.data. After that, I'm going to go ahead and add the username field. I'm going to make that equal to request.data.get, and this should have an email field. Okay, so now my data is created. My data should have my password, my email, my display name, and username field. So now the next thing that I need to do is I need to actually create a user. So I'm going to create user. And I'm gonna destructure the data dictionary, which right now data should look something like this. Should have username with the value of email. Should have email with the same value. Should have password with some sort of value, and then it should have my display name with some other sort of value. Okay, so that's going to create my user utilizing the dictionary above by feeding each one of these keys to the and key value pairs to the correct fields. Once I have my user, so now I can say if new user is not none. So if it is not none, then I can create a token. And that's the other thing I forgot was to bring in tokens. So let's say from REST framework dot off token dot models. I want to say there you go. Import token. So since the user was able to be created successfully, I can go ahead and say that there is a new token. And that's going to be equal to token dot objects dot create, where the user is equal to the new user. All right, and then finally, I can return a response. My response is going to be where it's going to have a user. It's going to return the user's display name. Display name. And then it's going to have a token, which is going to return the token, new token dot key. And then finally, I'm going to need a status of HTTP 201 created. Let me format this a little better so that we can see all the code. All right. So now this happens if the user is not none. Well, what's going to happen otherwise? Well, otherwise, I want to return a response. This response is going to say something went wrong. And it's going to return a status of HTTP 400 bad request. Okay, so there's my sign up view. I should probably test it before I continue going anywhere. So let's go ahead and open up Thunder Client. Let's make a new request here. And let's run our backend. Okay, so it looks like there is a problem within the backend, and that is because inside of my URLs, I'm importing a bunch of things that do not exist. And I have a comma. All right. There you go. All right. So now we can go ahead and copy this URL, paste it. It's going to be going to API/v1/users/signup. What I will be sending will be a post request. And within the body of said request, I want to send the following key pair values. So I want to send email, which in this case will be fr@fr.com. I want to send a password, which will be fr. I want to send a display name. And in this case, I'm just going to go with my same GitHub handle, which will be Ravela08. And I believe that's all I need. Let me make sure that within my views, I match that dictionary. I don't need to add the username because the username is coming from within here. It has the email, password, and display name. Okay, great. So I have all of my information. I'm sending a post request. Well, let's see what happens when I send this request. So I'm going to send the request. The request was successful. We could see that we got a post request. It returns a 201 created. Here's the 201 return statement. The size of my response the time that it took to complete my response, and here I have my username along with my token authentication. Does anyone have any questions about the sign up view? Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and move on into doing this, but let's do it through React now. Let's take it one view at a time. Or would we prefer to see the entire backend done and then the front end? Any votes?
I vote for how you were just about to do it.
Fantastic. All right, so now let's go into React. Let me make another terminal here. I'm gonna change directory into full stack. Then I'm gonna change directory into my front end project. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and install React Bootstrap. I don't think I have enough time to go through the whole like creating a browser and all that good stuff. But if I do, I will get to it, I promise. For now, I'm just gonna go ahead and install React Bootstrap. Okay, and then I know there's another thing that I need to add into main.jsx, which is not included within React Bootstrap, but it is in our front end module. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into our front end module. I'm gonna take a look at component and utilities, take a look at lesson 2 for Bootstrap. And there I can see that inside of main.jsx, I need to also import Bootstrap. So let's go into main.jsx and import Bootstrap. Okay, so now I can run npm run dev. That should work properly. Okay, we can see that Bootstrap's already taking into effect, and there's a couple of things that are messed up here. That is okay. Just in case, I'm going to take off that comma because it's honestly freaking me out. And let's go ahead and take off all of this information. Oh, not all that. That we do not need. Okay, so now in app.jsx, I shouldn't need any of this. Oh, I'm going to keep the use state for the user. And let's delete all of this. And let's create an H1, which will be authentication example. And let's turn this into user and make it into null. All right. So now we just see authentication example. Let's go into Bootstrap and grab some forms here. Form control. Okay, so it looks like this should be pretty simple. Let's go ahead and grab it. Oh, hello. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, there you go. So now we should have a form. There's my form that has an email address. That's great. I don't only want an email address though. I also want to have a username field or display name. So display name. This display name will not be a type email, it will be a type text. And for placeholder, I don't know, display name. Okay. And then finally a password. Okay, I'm not going to need this MB3 down here. So I don't need that. This display name. Okay, so now instead of display name, I'm going to need a password. it will be a type password. And here I'm just gonna put password. Okay, so password, when I type, we'll see that it gets blinded. Display name will only take the actual display names. And then I think there's a button that I can add that comes from form. Let me make sure. We're adding a file. Okay, there's not. So maybe I can import button from BootStrap. Right? And I can say sign up. It's failing. What are you crying about now? It's saying button doesn't work. All right, fine. Let's see. Import button from React Bootstrap / button. How about that? Okay, now it works. So now we have our sign up. Here's our form. We could give this form a little bit of inline style, I guess, just so that, and actually this is going to apply to all forms. So maybe we could go into index CSS, pass in the form tag, and maybe for the form tag, we want to create a margin where the margin is maybe 5 vmin. We give it a border just so that I know where it's cut off of 1 vmin. We make it solid and black. Okay, and maybe some padding would be appreciated here as well. So padding 3 vmin. Okay, so there's our form. It has some padding. I feel like I want to round the corners, but that's not necessary right now. But now we have all this information. All of this is great. I have my form. I don't like how it's all inside of one thing. So I'm going to go ahead and create a component here. So I'm going to create a components folder. And within components, I'm going to create a file named signup.jsx. Sign up. And I guess I could export default at the bottom. All right, so now I'm going to go to app.jsx. I'm going to take all of this with me. Bring it over to sign up. And then I'm going to grab some of those import statements up here. And again, bring that over to sign up. Okay, finally, I'm going to go into app.jsx. And I'm going to actually grab the sign up component so that it renders on my screen. Okay, good. So now I isolated the component. Everything has been broken up. And the main reason why I wanted to do that is because I know that I need to create a use state for each one of these fields. So let's go into grabbing that information. I know I'm going to need use state. I think I shouldn't need use effect, but I know I am going to need Axios, but maybe Axios should be handled through utilities in this case. So we'll get into that here shortly. Let's go ahead and create an email. Password. And I think it's display name. Just want to make sure I camel case display name. Okay, so now I have these three, and all I need to do is go into my form controls that I have here. Ooh. I don't think I need this control ID. Let me make sure none of this is failing. Okay, none of it's failing. All right, perfect. So now I can go into this form control, into all three of them. And I know I need to give them both a value. And I need to give them an onChange method, which basically onChange is going to take in an event. And then it's going to set something into, into event.target.value. Okay. So in this case, this is my email. So I'm going to put in email. Here, what I'm going to set will be the email. This is my display name. So I'll call display name. What I'm going to set will be set display name. And same thing for password. So password and then set password. All right. So that should take care of all of this. Finally, all I need to do is actually build my dictionary or my request that I'm going to be sending to my backend through this form. So let's make an onSubmit function. So let's say const sign up. This will be an asynchronous function. Again, I'm going to utilize Axios. So let me stop the server real quick. Let me install Axios. I'm going to run the development server one more time. Let's see. Let's create a utilities.jsx at the source level. Import Axios. From Axios. And I don't think I remember this one off the top of my head. Does anybody remember how to create an Axios instance off the top of their head by any chance?
In the utilities folder, you do looks export const API equals axios.create.
So export const, and then this is API equals axios.create. Okay, and then this create takes in an object, which has the base URL. And I'm just going to pass it the same thing that I have in Thunder client. It's a lot of pages. Where did you go, Thunder client? There you are. Looks like all I need. Well, I know that I'm only going to be doing users. So I'm going to pass in all the way into the users endpoint here. Okay, users. And this is being exported. So now I can utilize it within my project, go back to sign up. And now I'm going to go ahead and import API from utilities. And then, excuse me, everyone, my dog's barking, so I'm gonna bring him in real quick. Okay, that's done. I apologize again. So now we have our API. It's gonna go to sign up. So let's go ahead and send this API endpoint here. Let's see. Do I remember how to send the responses? I think I do. So let's let response be equal to await. I want to utilize API. Oh, why are you crying? There you go. API.post. And it's going to go to sign up. All right. And then finally, it's going to need data, which in this case, I have my email, which will be set to my email. I have my password, which again will be set to password. And then I have display name, which will be set to display name. All right, so that's gonna send my request to sign up. It's with all this data. Once my request comes back. Ooh. We're gonna have to use a little bit of inheritance here. Because I need to be able to set the user. So I'm gonna pass in set user. Sorry, not inheritance, passing down props. There you go. Getting set user. Okay, so now I'm gonna say if response.status is equal to 201, because we need to make sure that there is a 201 created. Then I'm going to set user to response.data.user, which I think that's what I'm returning in my view. I'm returning user. And then I'm going to save the token to my local storage. So set item will be token, then response.data.token. Else, I'm going to alert something went wrong. Okay, so now I created this function, and I can add this function as an onSubmit method to my function below. But I just realized that I forgot to pass in the event. So I need to grab the event and then e.prevent default. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this form or how I set up all of the use state and the Axios request? It was a lot of typing.
So if we were going to implement the utilities, would it maybe like could we have what do you think it would be maybe smart to have multiple API endpoints in that utilities file for like different parts of our front end application?
You can. The main reason why you want to have, so the main reason behind isolating this behavior is because when you go to deploy, you only have to change this one time, right? If you have multiples, then you would have to change this multiple times. That's why we want to isolate this behavior. Does that make sense, Brian?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, for the to set a base URL. So if we had a lot of endpoints on our from our API that weren't users, would we maybe want to step that back to V1?
Yeah, you would just cut it off all the way back to V1.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Well, let's try this out because in theory, this should all work, but we never know, right? Let's go ahead and clean this console real quick. Make sure that everything's working properly. If I refresh, doesn't seem like I have any errors. It's crying about form fields for not having an ID attribute, but I'm okay with that. So let's go ahead and try it out. Let's try AB at ab.com. Display name, let's do AB. And finally, let's do password at AB. Okay, so if this form works correctly, we shouldn't see an alert. Okay, so we get a network issue. This is happening because, of course, we forgot to set up Django so that it accepts scores correctly. So let's go back into Django. Leave what I forgot to do is course allow all origins equals true. Okay, now that that's been done, I should be able to send this request one more time. Okay, I didn't see the error populate that time, so let me make sure. Let's go into the application tab. Go inside of local storage. And there's my token for my new user. Okay, so there's my token for my user of AB. Everything's working correctly. Now, why are we utilizing local storage? Well, when I refresh this information, everything is gone, but my token stayed within my local storage. So now I need to work on getting info to work so that I can display if I have an actual user set in here. Okay, so let's break down info. And actually, before we go into breaking down info, does anyone have any questions regarding the front end and back end application for sign up?
Can I see your sign up or login part? Just look at that for a second.
Are you referencing to the JSX?
Yeah,
Okay, which portion of it you would like to see?
the function for sign up. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I was having issue with it, or like I'm having issue with currently, is like setting user for the rest of the page. Like if you have conditionals, like having a log out button if there's a user.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely go into that here shortly.
Okay.
All right, let's go into our info page, or info. All right, so there's sign up. The next thing that we need to do is tackle info. So let's go into our user app. Let's go into our classes here. And actually, I'm gonna make a user's permissions class. User permission. This is going to inherit from API view. And then it's going to have authentication classes being token authentication. And then it's going to have permission classes being is authenticated. This way I could just inherit this information for both logout and info functions. So now I can have class info. This is going to inherit from user permissions. It's going to have a get method. And all it's going to do is it's going to grab regarding the token. So then all I'm going to do is return a response with the user being request.user.displayName. That's all it needs. That's all this response is going to need. Why is this highlighted red? What are you crying about? Did I mess something up, or is VS Code just
You fit the curly brace.
there? It is, the curly brace. Thank you so much. Forgot to turn it into a dictionary. Okay, and that's it for the front end. This is all I need. I just need to make sure that I return the user. All right. Well, now let's go into the back end. I mean, into the front end. That was the back end. Let's go ahead and set up our inside of app.jsx. Let's go ahead and set up our ability to grab a user. So now let's make a const get info. Again, this is going to be an asynchronous function. And what we're going to do is we're going to say token or let token be equal to local storage dot get item. I'm going to be grabbing token. And then I'm going to say if token. So if token actually exists, then I'm going to say let response be equal to await. And I want to utilize API dot get. I'm not going to have an endpoint because it's just going to grab all of the info. And then I'm going to set user to response.data.user. All right, and then otherwise I don't want it to do anything. If there's not a token, then there's not a token. All right. So now I want this to happen every time the page loads. So I'm going to create a use effect. This use effect will call get info. Again, I want it to happen every time the page renders. And then I want to make sure that there's a way to confirm this. So let me go ahead and say H3. I'm going to say welcome. And if there is a user, so I'm going to say user, then I want to display user. Otherwise, I don't want it to show anything. Okay, so currently right now it's telling me that there is no user, which is weird because we have a token. Let me go ahead and clean my console. Let me refresh this. Let me go to my application tab. Okay, so my application tab seems to be working. It seems to be sending the request of get info. Let me just check. I want to make sure it's actually grabbing the token. Okay, so now we have a problem within the console. Oh, it's saying that the URL endpoint is not found, which is fair because I did not plug it into my URLs, did I? I did not. Fantastic. All right, so there's that. And let's import info. Okay, so now we can clean this up, send the request. Now it's giving me unauthorized. Okay, now why is it giving me unauthorized when I send this request? Well, it's giving me unauthorized because when I signed up, I did not add my token into my API. So let's go into doing that. And I don't think I remember this off the top of my head, so let me make sure I grab the correct information. I need to add it into my API.defaults.headers.common. I need to add the authorization header. And what this needs to have is it needs to have the word token along with my actual token, which is coming from response.data.token. Okay, so now this is going to mess things up a little bit because it ruined the flow, right? Now I need to actually sign up all over again and do all that good stuff. Or maybe I could just have it to where if the token is in there, I can add it just to prevent some unexpected behavior. So if the token, since the token is here, add that to the headers and then send my request. Okay, I refresh. It's telling me it cannot access token, and that's fair because that is not a thing in here. I need to just place token. Okay, and there you go. Now we can see that it's grabbing the information and it's showing me welcome AB, because that's the user that I created for the display name. And that's happening from this conditional rendering. And I think that's along the questions what you were asking about, right, Cody?
Yeah, I'm trying to like jot down the API defaults header stuff. I get it. Like I understand the header you're putting like what we do in Thunder Client, but I didn't see it done like this.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we want to make sure that we add that authorization header to our API. That way, every time we send a request, we're including our token. Okay, so that's able to set our user. We're able to sign up. Well, if I'm also signed up, I should be able to log out. All right, so let's go ahead and include a button for logging out. Let's do button from React Bootstrap. And let's do log out. Now this button should only show up if there is a user. So I'm going to do user question mark. If there is a user, otherwise don't show anything. And now I just need to create a logout function. Now let's start with the backend here. Let's make this an asynchronous function. And then let's say we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna check if there is a token. Or actually, this one would only be triggered if someone was signed in, so we know there is a token. I don't need to check if there is one. Instead, I'm just gonna go straight into my request. So I'm gonna say let response be equal to await API.post logout. And then I'm gonna check if response.status is equal to 204. And I probably want to put this in parentheses. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to set the user back to null. And I'm going to remove the token. So now that's gonna be, I believe it's local storage dot remove item token. And then I need to remove it from my authorization headers. Let's see. That's login. There you go. And I can remove it from my authorization headers by utilizing delete from API default headers.common, and then I'll just delete the entire authorization header. Okay, so now that I have all this information, I want logout to happen on click. So now on click, log out, and I'm going to give this a variant of danger. I think that's one of them, right? Yeah, there you go. Okay. So a variant of danger that should be able to change my React code. So we should see that welcome go away. Let's go ahead and refresh. We have 6 issues, but no errors. If we take a look at our application tab currently has a token. And once I send this request, it should remove my token. But currently, that this functionality doesn't exist within my backend. So let's create our logout function in the backend. I'm going to go ahead and say class logout. This is going to take in user permissions. It's going to take in a post request. And all it's going to do is it's going to delete the token for the user. So I'm going to say request.user.auth token. I think that's what it is, right? Let me go ahead and take a look here. Yep, there it is, auth_token. Okay, so now I can go back into my views, request.user.auth token, and then I'm going to delete. Then after that, I can return a response where the status code is HTTP. Oh, did I forget to import 204? Nice. 204, no content. Oh, there you go. Okay, so that should delete the user's token and then allow them to log out. All right, and then finally I need to plug this into my URL so that I don't make the same mistake. So there's logout. And here's our logout endpoint that's going to allow someone to log out as the view. All right, well, let's take a look at what that looks like. So we go at app.jsx. When I click this button, it's going to send a request to logout. That request will be accepted by my view. It will then delete the authentication token and return a 204 response. Once that response comes back, I'm going to check that the status code is 204. I will set my user to null, remove the token from my local storage, and remove the token from my authorization header. Okay, let me refresh. We're all good. I click on logout. My token has been removed from my local storage. We can see that I no longer have info if I refresh. If there was never a request that was sent because there is no token, and I don't have an authorization header, and I don't have a way to log in currently. So my user technically does not exist. Are there any questions regarding the logout process?
I'm running as much as I can.
I had a question about the front end part with all this. You're doing it in app.jsx. Would you normally create your own page for like sign up and log out, or how would you structure that?
That's kind of up to you, as far as rendering goes. Usually what I do is, I have a page named sign up or login page, and then I do some conditional rendering. So I show up like a button saying like, do you want to sign up or do you want to log in? And then when they click on a button, well, then that determines which component shows up on the screen. Right. But it's all within one page. The login and sign up are within one page. They're just separate components. Does that answer your question, Robert? I could probably demonstrate it here shortly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just trying to think through like when we actually do this, because just the flow of it, because like when we create our app, like you'll probably come to a page, right? And then from there, you'll probably need to, like, usually the sign up and login won't be like the first thing you see. I mean, it could be, I guess, but so you come to a page and then there'll be like a button somewhere, which would then take you to this. Just trying to think through the flow.
Yeah, we could definitely do a flow demo here shortly. I've been going for an hour. We could either push through sign up or we could take like a 10-minute break and then come back and see the rest of the demo. Do we want a 10-minute break? Yeah, 10-minute break. All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and let me pause the recording here. All right, so we finished sign up, we finished info, and we finished logout. But now we need a way to sign in, because currently I only can sign up and I can't sign up my same user one more time. So let's go ahead and go into login. So class login is going to grab from API view. I can't use user permissions because this person does not have a token. This is going to receive a post request. And all we're going to do is we're going to authenticate this user. Ooh, that's what I forgot to import. Let's see. Oh, didn't want to do that. Oh, what are you crying about? Oh, you're crying about this. Okay, that's fair. Let's see. From, I think it's Django .contrib .admin. Nope, that's not it. I'm gonna have to take a look at the lecture here.
Auth, import authenticate.
Oh, it's .auth. Oh, thank you. Let's import authenticate, log in, and oh, well, I don't think we presented that, so let's do authenticate. All right, so now we have authenticate, and ooh, do I remember how to do this one off the top of my head? I may need the curriculum for this one, or I may need your guys' help for this one, honestly. So let's go ahead and try to grab this. Well, we know the email and password are going to be passed in. So I guess we could just use the username. So again, let's grab a data equals request.data. We're going to make a copy of it. We are then going to add to data the username field. And we're going to set that to request.data.get email. And all we're going to do is we're going to authenticate this user by passing in user is equal to authenticate where the email, or sorry, where the username is equal to data. Well, I guess I don't need this part then. All right, so data dot get email. And then we want the password to be equal to data dot get password. Okay, so that's going to authenticate a user. So now I'm going to say if user is not none. So if I'm able to grab a user, then what I want to do is I want to create a token. But in the case this user is already it's signed in another device, then maybe I don't want to create a brand new token. Instead, I want to get a token. So I'm going to destructure this information because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to utilize get or create, where the user is equal to user. So that's going to return a tuple, which returns a token and a true or false value for whether it was created or not. All right. So now that I have this information, I can now determine what my response would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and return response. And my response should look almost exactly the same as this. So I'm just going to grab this dictionary that I have up here. But rather than new user, this should return user. And this should return token. Okay. And then otherwise, it should return the response of improper credentials with a status of HTTP 404 not found. Okay, so that takes care of our view. Now let's plug it into our URLs. Here we have our login. We need to make sure we import login. Okay, login has been imported. Everything's connected. Here's our login view. It's connected to our URLs. And now finally, let's go ahead and create a login view. All right, so let's go over to, I don't need my backend anymore. Now what I need to do is create a new component for login. I'm going to make a const login. And I just realized that I'm probably going to do the same exact form. So I'm just going to take this form here, place it within login. Okay. And instead of sign up, because sign up does not exist, so I'm going to get rid of a couple of things here first. Let's see, why are you complaining? Okay, my backend's running fine. So instead of sign up, let's see, what else do I need from sign up? It looks like I'm going to need the username, the email and password, so I can copy both of those as well. Bring them over to login. Okay, so here's my email. I do not need display name, so I could get rid of the form group for display name. And I just need password. And instead of sign up, I can say login. Okay. Finally, I need to grab those import statements from right up here because I know I'm going to need them. And I'm just going to give this an H for saying login. And same thing for sign up. I'm going to go ahead and add an H4 that will say sign up. Okay. So now this is being exported. Oh, it is not being exported. So let's go ahead and export default. And let's default login. Let me save this page so that we can have all this information. All right. And now I'm just going to bring it in to app.jsx. Okay, there it is. So now we have app.jsx, we have our sign up form, and we have our login form. It's all set up and ready to go, but currently it doesn't have any functionality. All right, so our login form is able to collect the input field data, but it's not able to send a request just yet. Well, let's take care of that. Let's grab the set user prop that we passed in. And let's start our request. So now we're gonna say const login. This is gonna be an asynchronous function. And what it's going to do is it's going to say let response be equal to, it's going to await an API request. So API.post. This is going to go to login. And the data that it's going to send here will be the email. And the password. Okay. So then finally, once this is set, if this comes back with a 200, then it's going to do the same thing that our sign up request did. So rather than checking for 201, I'm going to check for 200. It's going to set the user to response.data.user. It's going to set the token to response.data.token, add our API headers, and then alert us if something went wrong. So now I can just add it as an onSubmit method, where it's going to take in an event and trigger the login function. And again, I forgot to prevent the default behavior. Okay. So it looks pretty similar to our login function. Honestly, the main difference is just going to be the response status code. So you could definitely refactor this and make your sign up and login maybe be the same component. And then depending on which button they click, or depending on what kind of response you get, take one or the other action. But this works pretty well. I have my information. I'm able to log in. It should set my authorization header. I don't necessarily see any problems. So let's go ahead and try it out. I believe the user that I created was ab@ab.com. And I believe the password was ab. So let's see what happens. Okay, we see that a post request was sent. If we check up top, our welcome now has our user, and it has the ability to log out. If we inspect and go over to our application tab now has a new token for our user. And if our user wishes to log out, they can click on log out. We can see the post request went to log out. We can inspect. Again, go back over to the application tab, and we can see that our local storage now does not have a token for our user. All right, and that is authentication in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions over authentication when it comes to front-end and back-end integration?
Yes. So are you using use outlet context or anything for like your passing your user around the different child elements? Like how there's a lot of like different logic and conditionals that require knowing if there's a user or not, like login, log out and all that. Are you using use outlet context for any of that?
Currently, I'm not, but I would if I had a React router. I would use outlet context to be able to pass my user component to every other page.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Because I like the login component and the sign up component and just making it a thing that you like it's like you put it on a page, like a register page, and you'll just have like a card of login and sign up. But I'm trying to think of like how I would pass a use outlet context from that's like the user from like app down to register page, forking down to sign up and login forms.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, let me go ahead and add a router into this real quick. And then maybe I could add some pages here. Let's see. New folder, pages. And then within the pages, I could add home.jsx and then register.jsx. Okay. So now I have these two pages. And let me npm run dev here. Let me create a router. I think I remember how to create a router. let's see, where's main? Main is here, so router should be living within here, so router.jsx. Okay, and then I want to import, create browser router from, oh, hello. React router DOM, I think. And then I want to import, oh, probably want to add some content to these. So export at home. Oh. All right, so that's gonna give us some lorem ipsum here. And for register, let's do const. I should probably use page, actually. Okay. And let me rename this here to have page included in the title. Okay. Done that. All right. So now let's import those pages.
I don't know if it's important, but create browser router has a capital C in your code, but I was using lowercase c, like camel casing.
Well, which one's the one that's right? I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
mine's working. Oh, you can trust me.
there you go. Okay, awesome. There it is. Create browser router. All right. Import homepage from pages. And then import register page. Okay, so now we have all these imports. Let's see. Const the router. And that should be equal to create browser router, which then takes in an object.
It's an array.
Don't judge me for not memorizing this off the top of my head. I apologize, everyone.
Well, I assumed we weren't supposed to memorize it.
Actually, it's all three. It's a parentheses array then object. So
Parentheses.
and then yeah, it's a list and then
Oh.
objects inside.
Array with an object. All right. And then, oh, let's see. So path at slash, that should render the element of app, right? And then children. Take an array of objects, which is index equals true. And the element would be the home page. Oh, probably want those inside of, oh, that's messing it all up. Okay, and then the last one would be path. We should go to register. Then have an element of register page. Okay, so that should take care of that. Just making sure the syntax is good. Okay, looks like my syntax is good. And now I just need to update my main.jsx, right? Yep. And what I need to do is rather than import an app, I need to import router. Router. Did I not export it? Of course not. Now export const. Oh. Okay, and then I need to grab router provider from React Router DOM. And in the render, I need to pass in router provider, where the router would be equal to router. Close that. Okay, there you go. So it's showing it pretty well. It has this information. But rather than, so right now I'm just refactoring. I'm gonna actually move this sign up and login. And I am going to move it to, where am I going to move it to? To register page. Yep. I know. Relax. Okay, so that should move it over to the register page. I have my app and my button, so that should work pretty well. Now how do I pass it into my outlet? Oh, well, I need to import outlet from React Router DOM. I need to pass in the outlet. And then, okay, there you go. So now it shows my lorem ipsum, which is what I expected to see in my home page. Maybe I should name it home as well. Okay, so now we see home being rendered. Home is good. If I go over to my register page, it's going to cause me an error because it's going to say we don't know what set user is. So within app.jsx, I would then pass in my outlet context, which I believe is use outlet context is equal to, and let me make sure that's correct because I don't think that that's the correct syntax. Oh, it's just context, of course. Why wouldn't it be? All right, there it is. So context, and then I could pass it in the information that I want. Well, in this case, I would want to pass it in user and set user. Okay, so those are the two things that I want to pass into my outlet. Well, now when I go to my register page, I can grab const. Oh, how do I grab it from there? Oh, there you go. So I can grab user and set user. And I could grab those from use outlet context. And I just need to move that above my return statement. Okay. And now that should be able to pass everything correctly. So if I go to /register, I believe, sign up is not defined. Of course it's not because I didn't import them correctly. And now you should tell me that login is not defined. Why isn't this working? Oh, because it needs to go back one. Okay, there you go. So there's my registration page. All right, so here we can see register page and it can show us sign up and log in. All those components stayed the same because it's showing me that. And then instead of making it show me this, maybe I could do something like I don't know, const existing user and then set existing user be equal to a use state of false. Or actually, I want it to be true. Okay, and then I could do existing user question mark. Right, so then I have this, and maybe I could do something like. And variant, and maybe this variant is, I think it's warning. Already have an account. Okay, and then from here I can do on click. And I can say set existing user to not existing user. And I could add the same functionality here. So I can say Command C to don't have an account. Okay, so now I'm in my register page. Okay, this is the sign up, but I already have an account. So I click on there. Okay, now I can log in. Oh, well, actually, I don't have an account. I can go back to sign up. I think that was the question that Robert was asking. And then I could add a small navigation bar. Let's see here. So let's say, oh, come on. Navbar.jsx. Maybe I can steal a navbar from BootStrap. Where are you at? Navbar. Okay, the juice is not worth the squeeze. Let's go ahead and make a navbar. From here, we're gonna export default the navbar. And then I know that I need to import link. Should have a navigation tab with a link to home and a link to sign up or register. Which I could just name login or sign up. Okay, so now I can go back to app.jsx, bring in my navbar. Okay, now I can go back to my project. Oh, it's not showing me my navbar. Why aren't you showing me my navbar? Oh, return statement. Okay, so now I can go to login or to my register page, sign up. I don't want to sign up. Okay, go back to my home and I can see this information, right? Let's say I log in. Let's go to AB at ab.com, AB. So I log in. We can see that automatically takes me there. Well, now since I logged in or my log out, right? Maybe I don't only want it to just set my token. I also want it to navigate me back home. So let's go to import navigate. Or is it use navigate? I think it's use navigate. There you go. And now let's make the navigate function. Okay, so once a user signs in, I want to navigate back home. And same thing for sign up. All right, so import use navigate const use or const navigate is equal to use navigate. And upon setting all of my request headers, then I want to navigate back home. Okay, so I'm going to save this. That should work for everything here. So let's refresh. Let's log out. Let's go to login. I'm going to go ahead and sign up. I'm going to go to ab at ab.com, AB. I log in, it automatically takes me home. And maybe I only want this to be visible if there isn't a user, right? So if there's not a user, then I want to show the login or log out. So I could do something like, let's see, where's my nav bar? Okay, maybe I could check if there is a user. And why not grab both? Set user and user. And then what I can do is in app.jsx pass in both. So user is equal to user. And then set user is equal to set user. So I can pass them in as props. So now if I go to my nav bar, well, I can say, hey, if there is a user, then show nothing. Otherwise, show this link. All right, so now we see that login and sign up don't exist. Maybe you want this logout button to show up instead. So you can move all of the logout functionality here. So let me take this here. Let me move that over here. Know that I'm also going to need to import API. Okay, that takes the logout. I shouldn't need to grab anything other than just the button itself. Okay, so now I can go to my nav bar and throw in my button in here. And then I just need to import button. Okay, and there you go. So now I have my logout page, right? It's not going to let me go to my register page, or I mean, it will right now. But if I click on logout, it shows me that I've logged out. If I sign in, it's going to sign me in, take me back home. Okay, and then in my register page, well, I only want this to be visible if there isn't a user. So I can create a use effect. And the use effect get imported. Okay, it did. And I can say if user is, maybe I can do like if not user, right? Because if user is null, it would be false. Then I can navigate. Oh no, actually, I want to make sure that this isn't visible if there is a user. So I want to navigate back home. This would just be navigate. And what I want from here would be use navigate. Okay, and then finally I can say const navigate is equal to use navigate. Okay, so now if somebody tries to force it and sign in, if they go /register, well, then you saw my register page showed up for a split second, but then it saw that there was a user, so it took that user back home. All right, now when they log out, then they can go to /register and it will show up perfectly fine. Was that the question that you were going for, Cody? Did this kind of answer your question?
Yeah, the app JSX, can I look at your where you put the navbar component
Yeah,
in
definitely.
app JSX? I think I know what I messed up and it was really silly. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's use outlet context and navbar is not in the outlet. So I was using context in the navbar.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So stupid.
Of
But cool. Thank you.
course. All right. Any other questions? And then I think, Robert, you had this question, a question along these lines too. Did this answer your question?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Of course. All right. We still have 10 minutes technically. We might as well make it a full hour. So is there anything anybody would like to see?
Hey, Francisco, so, like after somebody signs in and you have like the home, so it just shows home in the nav bar. What would you do to like have, so if you had other pages to have them then show up in the nav bar instead of the login sign up? If you, do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, I think I do. Okay, so if I had other pages, I'm not sure what to name these. Let's go with about. So a new file, about page, .jsx, and then let's do const page. Okay. And let's just add an H1 here, which will say page. Right, and then export default page. Okay, and then let's make a new file here, which will be contact page. .jsx. Okay, so this is purely for demonstration quick. Okay, so as I was saying, this is purely for demonstrational purposes. I'm just gonna copy and paste this straight into my contact page. And then I'll make them different by just naming them contact, and then coming down here and adding contact. Okay. Now I can go into my about page, and pretty much everywhere that page is located, I can add about. All right, so now I have these 3 new pages that I've created. Now I can add them into my browser. Where is my browser? Yeah, I'm gonna need my navbar later on. But if I go into my router, let's say that I have a path about. And the element this will render will be the about page. And now let's say we have path, contact, and this will render the contact page. Which for some reason it is not identifying. So let's go ahead and import contact page from pages slash contact page. Okay, and then you're saying to add it into the nav bar where I would have the remainder of the links. So what is the question? And I believe this was your question, right, Chad? What do you mean by adding the remainder of the links? Like, you want these links to be visible only when there's a user logged in? Or do you want these links to be visible at all times, whether there's a user or not? Or do you want these links to be visible when only when there is not a user logged in?
Yeah, that was me. But yeah, so after like a user logs in, so like originally, if they haven't signed in or aren't a user, it would just show up as like the login sign up. But then once they've signed in, then the rest of the pages kind of show up in the nav bar.
So that goes to contact, and this will say contacts. And then a link to, and let's say about. And that should go to about. Okay, so now we see home, contacts, and about. Well, the moment I log out, the only thing we should see is login and sign up.
Great, thank you.
Of course. All right. And I think that put us exactly at the hour mark since because of my small hiccup, so I apologize. But if there's anything anyone else would like to see, we don't have anything until 30 minutes from now. So I'm more than happy to code out anything you guys would like to see.
Well, I have a thing. So
Mhm.
I accidentally created a lot of users and I don't like, is there an easy way to delete them without restarting my database?
Without restarting the database, yeah, I think the easiest way to manage that would be to, I mean, you could either delete them straight from the database, or you can go into the Python shell and then delete them all. Do you want to delete them all, or is there a set of users that you want to delete and then just keep one?
I don't know. Maybe all of them.
Okay.
They're all like,
Yeah, if you wanted to delete them all, then I would just go, let's see, ls source dot venv /bin /activate. I would change directory into full stack backend project. And then I think I could enter the shell this way. And then from user app.models import user. Okay, and then I could say users is equal to user.objects.all. And then for user. Okay, so then I could say user.delete for user in users. Okay, and that should have deleted all of the users that I have. So now if I say user.objects.all, that should return nothing because now all of them are deleted. So now if I go to log in and I try to log in with ab@ab.com, ab, Well, I try to send the request, but we can see that Python is responding with a 404. No, 404 because this user no longer exists. So I would have to go to don't have an account and then sign myself up again. And now I have a user. So now
Should
if
we
I-
create, oh, sorry. Should we try and integrate like a delete user in the, or delete account for our users?
So typically when you delete users, you don't want to actually delete them. You just want to set their active. So is active component to false. The main reason why you don't want to delete a user is if you have data belonging to that user, you don't want to have that user recollect their data if they ever come back to your application. Or maybe you want to utilize that data to like build some sort of data collection. So you typically don't want to actually delete the user. You just want to change their is active status to false. And then if they come back, you just set it back to true. But you can definitely implement an endpoint too, where somebody could terminate their profile.
Okay.
Or like Robert said, you could have a user view in the admin panel and then just delete them from there.
Did you set it up to where they auto go deactive after like 90 days of not being used? Because I know there's like a last login and all.
There is. So if you want to do something like that, you would have to. So now we're talking some backend logic, right? Let me take this off. Let me go to backend project. Nope, not there. I want to go to the user app. I want to go to views. So if you want to do it that way, you would have to implement the login and logout function. And essentially every time a user signs up, you would want to log in that user. And I believe login takes in the request itself. I'm not sure, let me check. So it looks like it takes in the request and the user. All right. And then you would also want to do that in login. And then I think there's logout as well, but I wonder what logout, oh, logout just takes in the request. Okay. And the main reasoning behind that would be, so now if I go to log out, right? Oh, well, this user was never logged in, so it's probably giving me an error here. Oh. I want to do these backwards. There you go. Okay. So now I go to log in. Let's say I do ab@ab.com and I do ab. Well, now inside of my database, if I do select all from user, we can see that the last login method or the last login field actually has a date and time, right? So now when I log out, it's also going to terminate that function rather than just leaving it blank. All right, so now when I log out, I can log out and it will actually show that that user has been logged out. And then after that, you could just check, I think their last login. I wonder if there's a way to check last logout. Pose to log. Okay, so someone just created an entire model to be able to figure it out. Oh, it looks like the Stack Overflow post is actually answering your exact question, Megan. So it looks like this post is saying that you can create a model that would check the user login and log out. And then from there, they use receivers to check the logins and a receiver to check the logout. And I'm sure you could also use a receiver that's working on some sort of datetime to automatically change this from true to false as far as there is active. But at that point, we're talking about signals and receivers, and that might be a little advanced for the entire class. But if you ever want to have a one-on-one and talk about it, we could definitely get in depth in there.
Well, that's great. I just wanted to know if it was
Feasible.
easily possible, not like some like it's going to take me a month to figure out possible.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, awesome. If there are no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, and then I'll see everyone at 11:30 for our weekly retro. Last call for questions. Awesome. Thank you so much.